Today I'm feeling all about rainbows. We have this really cute chipboard here from Southern Ridge, and it has your rainbows, some clouds. It's got these cute little heart designs in here, and it also has a sentiment. So this to me just looks like a card it's just ready to be on a card. The sentiment is wishing you a heart full of rainbows. Love that. So I've pulled out my favorite chalk paints in some rainbow colors. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rings to the rainbow here, so it gives you a lot of options for colors. So we'll zoom out a little bit and start making some colorful designs. So because of this, a lot of the paints that I'm using here today are actually translucent rather than opaque, which means that you can see through them. If I paint this white first, my colors are going to stay more vibrant, and I do want vibrant for a rainbow. So I'm just going to paint the entire piece here with white to start with. Just put some of these colors out of my way. You could also do this with gesso if you wanted to, or even a white ink pad. It's just to get your base starting with a nice bright white. So you notice I'm not even cutting my little chipboard pieces apart, since not at this stage, since they're all going to be white. And then we'll just let that dry. And it's because I'm using chalk paint, it'll dry really fast. If you're using an acrylic paint or some other kind of a paint, it may take a little bit longer to air dry, or you can always dry it with a heat gun as well. So now to work on my sentiment here. And I think I'm going to make this piece a little smaller to work with. But I'm going to leave it connected while I paint that, just because I think it'll be a little bit, give me a little bit of something to hang on to while I'm painting it. So I can hang on to this frame, and that keeps my hands out of my paint, and I think I'll go with red since the red is kind of the farthest away from it on the rainbow. You could also paint this in rainbow colors. It doesn't have to be all one color. Or it could just be painted black so it sticks out as a real accent. But painting each word a different color might be kind of fun too. And there is a piece of chipboard that goes along the bottom of all the words in this sentiment. And I don't know if that's intended to be left attached to your words or not, but I'm going to leave it attached because I think it's just going to be, that way all my letters, all my words are all lined up. And I think just it's a little easier to work with for as far as attaching them onto my project. Okay, so that's kind of 2 coats of paint on there. Yeah, I'll give that a dry and just see what it looks like. And maybe just one more coat, just to give us some nice, vibrant, solid red on there. There, that's nice and red. And then I'll give it one last dry so that I can really handle that without putting fingerprints in my paint. And then it's just a matter of cutting this apart. So I'm going to cut off this frame around the outside, but this little line that's holding all the sentiment together, I'm going to leave that there. You could cut it off if you wanted to, but I just think it's going to be easier to work with. Rainbows, make sure I'm cutting this in the right place and not cutting a letter off. If you did cut a letter off, well, that just means you'd have to glue it onto your project separately. But might as well aim to get it done the easiest to start with. You see that just snips very easily with scissors. I'm even using my good fussy cutting scissors for it. There, yeah, that's ready to go onto a card. And what did I do with my other? Oh, here's my other. Some other little clouds that were attached in there as part of the chipboard set. And then I also want to make a background that is the sky. So I have used the cloud stencil before on these Try It Tuesday videos, but this time I thought I would do it again, but instead of doing a blue ink on white paper, I'm going to pull out some blue paper for a sky, or maybe that one. That one might be a little bit too bright. And then do the clouds in white, just for something a little bit different. Let's try it with the lighter blue. Okay, clean up. Okay, I've decided to go with a square card with this one. So I've cut this blue piece down to 5 by 5 inches, and that gives me room to, I can put a mat on there and even another card base, so even a double mat, and end up with a card that's either 5.5 by 5.5 inches or even a 6 by 6. And then I pulled out a stencil. My original idea was to make clouds, but I'm kind of thinking this, like this kind of a sunburst above the clouds and the rainbow might be fun too. Or maybe I'll just go back to the clouds. Okay, we'll go with the clouds. Rainbow on a cloudy day. Okay, so I'm going to try it with this white ink I have. Happens to be the Stays On Pigment ink. And a sponge applicator. We'll see how that goes. First row of clouds maybe up here. Not sure if this white's going to show up, if maybe the blue isn't enough contrast. Might need a darker blue paper. Or maybe we'll just have a really subtle look for clouds. Okay, let's see what happens. Well, definitely subtle. It would definitely be just a background thing. I don't even know if you can see that show up on camera. Even in person, it's kind of just barely, you gotta have in the right light to show up. Okay, so we'll try a little bit more. Try a little bit more before I give up and go to a darker color of blue cardstock. Well, it's very subtle. Maybe that's all we need. No, I want more than that. So let's try it. Try it on a brighter piece of blue cardstock and see what happens. Shows up, but no, I would say that's a fail. That is just not a working for me. You can see it a little bit, but it's streaky. It just doesn't look nice. Okay, so I'm going to say that Stays On pigment ink. It's not what I'm after for this. We'll have to do some more experimenting. Okay, let's try it with some white paint and see what happens. And I'm going to try sponging it, which, well, it's just going to be another experiment, isn't it? I want that to soak into my sponge good, so I'll mix that around, get it good and saturated into my sponge. And then sponge a little bit of that off the edge of the stencil and see what happens. Okay, well, not bad. It's different. It's different than putting ink on there for sure. Certainly goes on easier than that Stays On ink was. Paint just applies super easy. Probably time to spin that over. Pick up a little bit more paint. I do like the feel of it saturated in there though. And this will just give us a subtle cloud background for our rainbow. Okay, that's different. Not really sure I'm liking that with the white against the blue. I think it's better blue against the white. Let's try it with a darker blue. Seeing as it's all out here anyways, experiment and just see what happens. Is it going to work or is it going to be a fail? Well, it'll work, but is it going to look nice or is it going to look like a failure? Okay, so new idea. I went to reach for a piece of white cardstock and just came across this nice gingham paper in my stash. And, you know, that's kind of whimsical. We'll have a checkered sky, but I think it still needs some clouds on it. So we'll experiment with that. Would do you think? Okay, well, experiment. Oh, this Try It Tuesday is really, really full of what's going to happen if. So I'm going to try it just with this archival ink. Not that it needs to be archival, but it just happens to be the color that I think may work against this. We'll try it. Called Garden Patina. It's nice to have a few options in your stash so you can just keep experimenting. Just going to start with them very light because this is kind of funny having a checkered sky. Maybe I'll just do a little darker. So I'll put the stencil back where it was. Okay, this is a super strange sky, but why not live in a crafter's world where the sky is plaid and the clouds are blue? Or patina, garden patina is the color of our clouds. Okay, let's try that with this. You know what? I'm okay with it. I am just odd enough to like that. Yeah, so who knew? You know, next time we could have flower pattern paper in our clouds, in our sky. And then these little cloud guys, I kind of like them layered or floating. Oh, maybe one layered, one floating. Alrighty, let's do some assembly here. So I'm going to layer this up, our little plaid cloud piece here, our gingham clouds, onto white and then onto a nice bright yellow, so kind of like some sunshine back there. I just thought it needed the white to separate those two, because these two colors, they don't, for one thing, they don't go together, but that's okay. They're all in the project, but I think it just needs that white to separate them in there. So I'll just assemble those up quickly, and you can see what our finished project looks like. Oh, you can tell that was actually an Easter paper I was working with. Just a little leftover piece there. It's handy to have some alternatives on hand. And then adhere that down to my card base. I love using this Suquang for double-sided adhesive because it's nice and strong. I know everybody has their favorite, and thankfully there's many different types of adhesives out there, so we can all find something that we really like to use. And then to adhere this down, I think I'll do this first to make sure I don't run out of space. And for this I'm using a liquid glue, obviously using something that dries clear. So if I have any glue that sticks out, I'm going to try to just add that with my finger. And it goes on a little bit thinner. And handy thing about this, the design of the paper has the lines in it for the plaids, so I can just line this sentiment right up on those, on that design. And then I don't have any excuse not to get that straight, right? And then oh, I love the rainbow. It's just beautiful. And such a neat design with these hearts cut out of it. And I'm just about out of my glue, my goodness. You can see all the mess I have on the back of this chipboard piece, but you know what? It's okay. It doesn't matter that I set it down in paint and all sorts of things, because you're not going to see the back of it. And I don't need glue all over the whole thing. I'm just going to put a few daubs here and there. Probably a little bit more than what I need. And put that about right there. I see I have a little bit of glue squishing out, but it's going to dry clear, so we'll be fine. Kind of like having at least one of them layered up here. And there we go. Finished card, wishing you a heart full of rainbows. May you have some rainbows in your heart this week. Happy crafting, gals, and don't be afraid to try something new, something unexpected, some things that don't work. You know, tried it on a few things, didn't really care for it, and then I went to something right off the wall, and I like that a little bit better. Have fun.